Hello, friends. It's Molk jumping in all prematurely. I hope that you've joined me after what was a bit of a false start. I don't know where it went wrong, but here we are. Welcome to the TV BINGEBOX, episode 3 for this season in Year of Our J-Town 2024. I'd like to start by acknowledging the land of the Dark and Jung people, which is where I'm coming to you from, and I want to acknowledge their leaders, past and present, and offer that the land was never ceded, that we live on stolen land, and that this is all an opportunity for us to engage in deeper reconciliation opportunities with our Indigenous brothers and sisters. Hello, everyone. It's great to be here. I'm your host, Steve Molk. I'm not even sure I've been that formal before, but that's, where we land. It's great to see you all. Glad you're here. It's a big, absolutely packed full TV BINGEBOX episode, so I'm not going to muck around. If you want to keep up with everything that's going on in the land of TV Black Box or TV BINGEBOX, or even this little old guy who today passed a very serious milestone in becoming a teacher. I'm studying to become a high school teacher. And as a part of that, you have to do these things called literacy and numeracy tests, like a whole bunch of young people do in schools, but for us to prove that we're good enough to be able to teach them that stuff. Past, baby. So that's very good. I'm very happy with that. If you want to keep up with all the socials, you can go to my link tree. That's lanktr.ee/Steve Molk. And that's where all of the things are hiding away. That's where you can find out what's going on with me, with TV Black Box. As I said, all of the things and the places that you should know and you should go. Something that I have omitted from saying, but I would encourage you to do so. However you are listening to this from a podcast point of view, or even if you're watching it on Facebook, if you're watching it on YouTube, please, can you make sure that you subscribe, like, rate, review, share, do all of the things that, help make this visible so that more people can join this excellent community that we have that meets every Tuesday night at about 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time to share the television that we love and maybe warn others about the television that we didn't love. Oh, who knows? It's an amazing opportunity, and that community is a really vibrant one. It's great to have people watching on, as I said, YouTube, watching on Facebook, people watching on the TV Black Box or TV BINGEBOX Instagram. So glad that you could all be here, and thank you for joining in. If you throw in your comments, I get to have the opportunity to include them on screen like this, where Cole said, congrats to me for passing. Thanks, Cole. Appreciate it, mate. Or Peter dropped in and said that he was interrupting MasterChef, but worth it. Look, I held some pretty clear views about this latest season of MasterChef, Peter, but I'm glad that you've decided to join us nonetheless. It's wonderful. And tonight, I want to warn you early. I want your involvement. I want to hear from you later in the show. Feel free to throw your comments in about all of the things that I'm going to be talking about, particularly if you've seen it or even if you're excited about it and you haven't seen it for the shows that I'm going to profile in the binge box. But what I want to hear from you later tonight is, what is a show that you were most disappointed with, that you hoped or heard was going to be great? So it's not trying to bag on things. Like, I acknowledge that I'm trying to be really pro television and particularly Australian TV, but sometimes we jump into a show and think it's going to be this, and it's actually really not. So later in the show, I want to hear, and I'll whack those comments up on the screen or add some things into that. But definitely what I want to hear from you is the show that you were most disappointed after diving into. Not you didn't get into, like you didn't watch and just went, oh, but I heard it was going to be bad. I want to hear a show you committed to and then went, oh, oops. For later. Keep your powder dry, friends. Tonight's first show is look, I'm just not even going to sugarcoat it. Absolutely fucking awesome. And I cannot recommend it to you highly enough. Who cares what I'm about to say after this? But let's have a look at our first show for tonight. Just a big fat wow. Man, After the Party is incredible television. You saw in the trailer there sort of a hint. And look, I can promise you tonight, absolutely no spoilers, because this show, all of the shows that we're going to talk about, but particularly this show, is one of those incredible stories that you just need to experience. It's visceral, the response and the emotions and the feelings that you'll have in watching After the Party. Penny, played by Robyn Malcom, who you can see on the screen for those watching, her world implodes when she accuses her husband, Phil, Peter Mullan, who's a bloody great actor, of a sex crime against her daughter's teenage friend. and nobody believes her. What a position to be in, right? 5 years later, he returns from Scotland and moves in with Penny's daughter, Grace, played by Tara Canton, and grandchild. Grace begs her mum to put the past behind them. But when Phil takes up a teaching position, Penny is again compelled to prove his guilt. She wants to protect the young people, reopening barely covered wounds in those around her and causing Grace, particularly her daughter, to cut her out of her life. An increasingly alienated Penny, who is making some really shoddy decisions, frankly, is forced to choose what is more important, the truth or her relationship with her daughter. Just incredible. It is just incredible television. This was made for the New Zealand market, but people like Jason Stevens executive produced it. Robyn also executive produced it and co-created it, and of course stars in it as Penny. It's brilliant Kiwi drama, and I'm going to say the best Aussie drama you'll see all year. We'll own them. It's fine. The opening sequence, as a future teacher, the opening sequence is brilliant, and something that, look, it probably could never happen in reality, certainly could never happen in an Australian school. Penny confronts a group of boys who have been busted sharing a porn video, and she explains to them quite frankly and directly that that is not real sex. And goes on to explain why it's not real sex, and that, you know, she understands they're boys that have got testosterone flying through their bodies and their brains are still forming and all of those sorts of things. But how this video, and if they keep watching that kind of stuff, will just grow to absolutely manipulate their understanding of what a healthy sexual relationship is. It's pretty straightforward. She does it so succinctly. It's so well written. And that's just the opening, like 2-3 minutes. It's so good. I have to offer my only pondering about After the Party is there anything Robyn Malcom can't do? She can act, and solid drama act and comedy act, for those that remember her from Upper Middle Bogan and a bunch of other, you know, Aussie shows as well as Kiwi shows she's appeared in as a comedic actress. Phenomenal drama actress, as we see Penny just unravel across the episodes of After the Party. This is exactly the kind of drama that we should be demanding of our streamers, of our Australian commercial TV networks. I'll bang this drum early so I don't have to do it for the rest of the show. It's just fucking great. And this is the standard for Australian and New Zealand. When I say that, it's of course across the ditch as well. The standard for drama that we should be achieving, and we can achieve, and we do achieve more often than not. We just need the funding. We need the opportunity. We need the networks to just bloody back themselves and not leave all of the heavy lifting up to Foxtel, ABC, and SBS, which frankly, good on them, but is a shit show because 7, 9, and 10, poor form. You can throw all of the excuses at us, and I understand all of them, and you may think they're completely reasonable. It's not fucking good enough. More After the Parties, friends. That's what I say. After the Party, at this point, is a single season limited series run. Stars Robyn Malcom, Peter Mullan, Tara Canton, as I said. Also stars Elz Carrad, Ian Blackburn, Dean O'Gorman, Tanea Heke. It's a ripping Kiwi cast. You would just be crazy to not lock away 6 hours, whether you're going to do it. And I do encourage you to break it up, because it is a lot to consume emotionally, and it's a lot to consume in just processing it. I would even offer that there's benefit in watching a couple of eps and just pondering it, talking to someone about it, just enjoying the questions that you have. If you haven't seen After the Party, I envy you, because the discoveries and the thoughts that you'll have about watching this, that you get to watch for the first time. That's why I envy you, because now I've seen it, and I'm sure others that have seen it will agree with me. To rewatch it is great, but you know it's coming, and to do that with fresh eyes is a gift, because it's a drama that is that good, that freaking amazing. After the Party, all 6 episodes are available on ABC iView right this very second. Run, don't walk, go and watch it. You must. It's phenomenal. House of the Dragon is back for season 2. It kicked off this week on Binge and Fox Showcase here in Australia. And if you're a fan of what was the biggest TV show, honestly, in the last 10 years in Australia, Game of Thrones, this prequel series, I'm going to say had a bit of a faltering start in season 1. It had a lot to set up. It is a prequel series, and not like here's the younger characters that we saw in Game of Thrones. We're talking generations before. We're going back to set up really half of the characters that they talked about in history from Game of Thrones are characters in House of the Dragon. The same creative team are behind it, and HBO are just pouring money into VATs and shipping it to Europe to make this program. It is absolutely incredible. I don't think there's a TV show as big as this. There's certainly movies. This would eclipse many movie budgets for sure. Season 2 for mine is newer, better, improved, and it even has a brand new, improved opening credit sequence, which it needed to, because season 1's was a bit how's your father after the epicness of what we grew to love as Game of Thrones and its little kludgy wind up keystone kind of situation. This has moved into like a weaving situation, and it works really great. But that's not really what this is about. This is another round of my favorite Flagons, Wagons, and Dragons show, and it is epic in every sense. As you can see from the trailer, there are lots of extras. Guaranteed there is heaps and heaps and heaps of green screen, because dragons don't exist. Sorry to ruin that for you, friends. But also, some of the literal epicness is just as easy to have 30 people turn into 3,000. We're behind the looking glass here, people. War is imminent. There is no question. The whole of House Targaryen versus House Targaryen, those guys. Look, everybody is fighting because, frankly, it is a choice between king or queen. And we met our main protagonist women, one of who claims to be the queen, and her best friend, who is now the mother of the king in King's Landing. So sits the Iron Throne, but of course the queen, that would be queen, king, does not. And so it just bubbles along in this early stages of who's on whose side and what is it going to look like. I put the woman who would be queen versus the man-child king who rules King's Landing. That's pretty much the size of it. And while war is imminent, war is inevitable. I don't think it's unfair in saying that. That's going to be what we're staring down for at least this season, if not the rest of the series. I will offer, Westeros has never been more bold and the beautiful. There are lots of penises. There are lots of boobies, the occasional vagina. Like, it's the standard, Game of Thrones playbook in that regard. It is the kind of drama that moves at a snail's pace, but it couldn't be more luscious, and that's exactly why we love it. Because it does have these moments. The best part is because it's largely these two protagonist-antagonist situation, king versus queen relatives, that it means we're not, part of the problem for Game of Thrones was that it would just jump around the realm, and you could spend half an episode talking to this guy that meant nothing for 3 episodes, and then all of a sudden he dies, or like that kind of stuff. This is still very much those two camps. Very strongly, we know we're talking to these guys, and we know we're talking to these guys, and they are all talking about these guys, and they are all talking about the other mob as well. And there is subterfuge, and there is attempts on people's life, and there is dragon fights, and there's dragons killing people, and the dragons are a big part of it because they all talk about the power that the dragons give them and the benefit and the energy. There is heaps of he said, she said, but that's the nature of the beast, isn't it? And it's definitely House 1 versus House 2, almost like a medieval The Block, for what it's worth. But the interesting thing is, for mine, that I think it is the glory of House of the Dragon that delivers to us what is possible when networks want to throw a gajillion billion dollars at things. We get to benefit from that. Returning in the cast for House of the Dragon, Matt Smith, Olivia Cooke, Emma Darcy, Eve Best, Steve Toussaint, Rhys Ifans, who is, for mine, he's kind of the gold in this. Matt Smith is great. Olivia Cooke is great. They're all amazing. Rhys Ifans delicious as the Hand of the King, and is really quite good. Nonetheless, here we have a whole bunch of new people joining the cast as well. Gayle Rankin, Freddie Fox, Simon Russell Beale, Clinton Liberty, Kieran Bew, Tom Bennett, and most of them are sirs, coming to fight the wars and doing those things. House of the Dragon Season 2 is 10 episodes long. The first episode premiered this week on Binge and on Fox Showcase. They're dropping weekly, and you can enjoy them Monday when they drop here in Australia, because there's a Sunday night show in the US on Binge on Fox Showcase. House of the Dragon, I'm in. Loving it, sick. I'm getting involved in it. Do it, do it, do it. This is the brand new drama series from Stan. It starts this week. It's called Exposure. And it is, yeah. I'll read you the guff. Let's go there first. The series follows photographer Jax Gould, played by Alice Englert, who returns to her hometown of Port Kembla on the south coast of New South Wales after the death of her friend to discover the hidden secrets of their relationship and the truth behind the tragedy. Believing the corrosive actions of a man pushed her friend over the edge, Jax throws herself out as bait, beginning an investigation that becomes an obsessive, impulsive pursuit. Channeling her actions through sex and the darkroom, Jax's search for answers become a turbulent, unruly quest into the depths of processing present-day grief while reckoning with the past. The PR guffs and Jedis at Stan go on to say, Exposure is an incredibly special series as it brutally depicts the female experience with such startling authenticity. Exposure is inspired by the creator's own lived experience and is the only TV series to premiere at the Sydney Film Festival this year, which in itself is no small feat, let me tell you. I don't know if you saw the Carey Mulligan film, gosh, I think it was 12 months ago, called Promising Young Woman, which was about a woman who put herself out as bait to capture men who would take advantage of drunk women and expose them. It's got elements of that, and in and of itself, as a piece of fictional storytelling, it's brutal and hard and was everything that I could not relate to, because look, I'm a 50-year-old man and this is the tale of 20-something women. So I'm happy to be educated about what goes on and what their experience is. And I'm going to say up front, even though I am not anywhere near close to someone that is involved in or has been involved in anything like this, if this is the female experience to all women, I'm sorry, because this is fucked up. Absolutely brutal. Jax, the central character, is going through some disturbing processing of her grief and does it in ways that I can't understand and can't relate to. Maybe you can. It's heavy going, and across the 6 episodes, we will see and experience with Jax and around Jax some very, very full-on stuff around particularly violence against women, violence against men, around people taking advantage of other people, around grief being processed in a way that is at times unhealthy and at times downright destructive. There has to be a huge caution, and I know, to Stan's credit, they're running cautions at the top of each episode. Not so much as content warnings, but just that it talks about there are disturbing issues discussed, portrayed, like shown in each episode. And if you are someone that wants to talk about that, there are absolutely places like Lifeline that you could and should talk to, and possibly even not watch this series because of them, because they are very distressing. The thing that I come away with as a 50-something bloke, right, privileged in all of my opportunity and position, through no means of other than just being a white guy in Australia, there is so much pain that Jax feels in her friend's death. and so much grief that she cannot reconcile, that we see played out in this. And I am, again, trying to stay away from spoilers, but just acknowledging it is laden with pain and laden with hurt. It left me feeling really uncomfortable. And that's probably a good thing, given, again, the nature of the content. I'm not supposed to come on and go, cheers. Not for the subject matter, but more for how it was portrayed. And that's where I just get, I can't relate to that. And if that is people's lived reality, holy shit. I'm sorry. That's horrible. Therapy as TV is not healthy for anyone. And it did actually make me wonder a little bit. And I'm sure that the person who created this show has spent, clearly, to come up with the show, spent some time working with people, helping them process that this was a similar to their lived experience. Fuck me. Like, that's, my heart goes out to them in that regard. This series is pretty incredible. And by incredible, I mean devastating. It is just, it's tough going, friends. It's not important in the way that some shows, talk to us about the human condition and reveal things in ways that are a little bit more gentle or even challenging because of the fact that they show them to us in that's not our experience, but surprise. This is just like 2 fists deep. It is hard going. It is difficult, horrible, not because it's bad, but horrible because of the subject matter, and extremely challenging television. You will need to decide up front if you can watch it. And I would love to hear, independent of my thoughts and reviews, if you do go and watch it, what did you think? Tell me later, because it doesn't launch until later this week. The cast has a pretty rocking cast, quite frankly. Alice Englert, as I said, Mia Artemis stars as Jax's friend who passes away. That's not a spoiler. That is central to the whole story. Essie Davis is in it, and an absolute ripper. Thomas Weatherall, George Mason, and 2 of my favourite Australian male actors of the moment, Sean Keenan and Ewan Leslie. They are brilliant in their roles in this, as are our lead, really 3 women, frankly, in Alice, Mia, and Essie. It's, yeah. I mean, I don't want to say good luck, because it's challenging, and it should be challenging because it talks about challenging things. Do not come into this thinking, oh, but Molk, it's, we've all seen that, or somebody something. No, whatever you think you've seen and look, you might be into some rough stuff and it might be okay for you. I am not. I don't like horror. This is not horror. But I just can't deal with, I found it very difficult to watch some of the depictions and portrayals of what both happens to Jax and what Jax does. Pop Kembla looks as intimidating as it should. Sydney looks lovely and looks as intimidating as it should. And some of the scenes that they are involved in some of those places look as scary as they fucking should be, because there is no human way that anyone should be subjected to some of the stuff that goes on. And yet here we are, friends. That's Exposure. 6 episodes. It starts this Thursday, the 20th of June, on Stan. Apparently YouTube's back, as I expected. It'll be because they House the Dragon bullshit. Ugh, fucking HBO. What a pain in the ass they can be. Let's move on to something that is a little lighter and hopefully something that will buoy your spirits. It will come as no surprise that I'm a fan of Taskmaster. I think I mentioned it as one of my red hot tips on the Binge Box and the TV Black Box podcast not long before we wrap that up. The UK series has been so good. 18 seasons. The 18th season is soon to start. So consume that any way you can. In Australia, I think it's here on Binge, if you want to watch it there. The New Zealand series has run 7 seasons, I think. And it's just as bloody hilarious. And for this comedy nerd, it introduced me to a whole bunch of Kiwi comedians I'd never heard of. And look, I now follow a bunch of them on TikTok or in all sorts of places. It's so fun, so fun. To have the Australian version come in, I was skeptical at the announcement, particularly because, and I'm sorry, this is not an intention to bash 10 by any stretch, because it was on 10. Now, if it had been on 10 of like 2005 or 10 of 1996, I would have said perfect fit, makes complete sense. 10 will smash this. But because 10 have been up against it in more ways than one and have really struggled to deliver us some decent content, it makes sense that you would think I should be skeptical. I was absolutely calmed into it, knowing that Tom Gleeson and Tom Cashman would be the Taskmaster and the Taskmaster's assistants. And both of them put their own stamp on the show, as they rightly should. However, I just want to make just a quick comparison between, and I want to talk about the series, but I just need to note this. Greg Davies has had 17 seasons broadcast, 18 filmed, to find his place as the Taskmaster. And friends, if you do what I did, and I binged like all 16 leading into the 17th this year over the summer holidays, you see him generatively grow and find his mark so neatly. It's perfection. Just seeing Greg Davies as the Taskmaster develop. And Alex Horn, who is the brains behind all of this, little Alex Horn, he created Taskmaster. And I hope they're just backing up dump trucks of money to his house and pouring it out on his driveway because he deserves it. It's so fun. It's so good. They make a great pairing. Allegedly, Alex said that he had Greg in mind when he was creating it. He thought of no one else to be the Taskmaster. I mean, bloody hell. What a gift of a role, frankly. In the New Zealand version, so let's just focus in on the assistants. Paul Williams is the New Zealand assistant. And I admit I had not heard of Paul prior to me watching him on Taskmaster New Zealand. And I'm so glad I discovered him. Go and listen to his Willosophy episode with Will Anderson. Watch Taskmaster New Zealand. It's so funny, as much for any reason as because Paul, the role of the Taskmaster assistant is to yes and he yes ands so great. He just lets it all happen, and it's so delightful. Paul is lovely, and he's brilliant, and it's so good. And what I love about Tom Cashman, we have 3 different people in that Taskmaster assistance role, and I can't rank them. They are all equally as good, but for very different reasons. Tom Cashman takes all of Gleeson's bullshit, and it's wonderful, and smiles and nods and plays along perfectly with each of the celebrities in the Taskmaster Australia context. And that's why this show works. I was fortunate enough to have some conversation with Will Anderson about this before he appeared on the show. And I agree with him. The thing that makes Taskmaster work is that it's actually about having each of the 5 central comedian participants. It's to show them just think as laterally as they can, do whatever it is that they do. And it's about nobody wins in showing them in a bad light unless it's super, super comedic, which being comedians, they would appreciate the situation. No one gets a bad edit. Like, they all show you doing your best or your worst because that's what you put in each of those tasks. And it's so fucking great. Like, they want people to succeed because that makes for good television, or they want them to just absolutely shit the bed because that makes good television. And that is why Taskmaster as a format is brilliant and delightful television. Tom Gleeson as the Taskmaster is no Greg Davies. However, he has relaxed a lot more into this season, and that's where we hit our first speed bump, friends. The first season of Taskmaster Australia had Julia Morris and a bunch of others in it. It was delightful, super fun. Tom Gleeson to me, he felt uncomfortable. He may not have been. He may have been very comfortable in his environment. It just felt very much like he was leaning too much on the auto cue, whether he was told to, or that was just his situation, or that was his delivery. It just felt too stilted. First season, I'll give him his legs. You can't compare it to Greg. 18 seasons in, you see where I'm going with this. What we're seeing is technically season 3. So there is a second season that is completely in the can that, for reasons only known to Channel 10, they went, we will take this series with Will Lloyd, Josh, Jenny, and Anne and broadcast it as season 2, which means that the season 2 series that has, I think from memory, Pete Hellier and Mel Buttle and obviously 3 other comedians, has been shunted. We'll come straight off the back of this. As I understand it, 10 are going to keep Thursday 7:30 as Taskmaster for the next, well, now remaining 15 weeks. So yay for us. Awesome. But what we'll see is that Tom Gleeson is far more relaxed as the Taskmaster in this series, and we benefit from that. And whether it's because he's obviously good friends with Will, and he's gigged a fair bit, done a lot of work with the others on the in the participants. He knows them. There's a familiarity that plays off it, and that when Gleeson steps away from the hardened persona of being the Taskmaster, he didn't laugh very much in the first season, and he laughs a lot in this season, which is, I think, part of the charm of it. He's involving himself in the fun, even though he has to make the hard decisions, and he is throwing some great quips and hard lines at people, doing his, punching down comedy that he does so well. It's when you can see when he really laughs at some of the stuff that they do or some of their comments. Like that's the gold for me. That is the gold. That's where I love Taskmaster as well. And you see that with Davies and all of the others in the process. But it'll mean that when we see season 2, will we see the same Tom? No. He's warmed into this series. So it's a little quibble, frankly. 10 should be applauded for doing such a great job around the Taskmaster format and what they deliver as Taskmaster Australia. And look, that's great. Well done, you guys. You're doing a great job. And some news to hand, such that it is. Kyle, the excellent Kyle Laidlaw, part of the TV Black Box team, has said reportedly they switched seasons 2 and 3 so that we're now seeing what is season 3 or season 2 due to the availability of comedians to promote it because Peter Hellier was away filming The Amazing Race. That's poor planning on 10's part, quite frankly. Fuck that. I agree. I'm not sure that that's reason alone to switch it. I agree, Kyle. And also, they held the fucking strings on getting him to go and do that. So whose fucking problem is it in the first place? 10's. They made the decision. We're benefiting from it, no question. And what I like is that it exposes the nation to some comedians maybe they've not heard of. I will posit most of the nation should know who Will Anderson and Josh Thomas are. If you don't, you're getting an education. Not everybody will know who Lloyd Langford or Anne Edmonds are. Fewer might even know that they're married and have a lovely child, and huge congratulations to them. I think it's delightful. Even less would know who Jenny Tian is. But how great is Jenny Tian? And what I love, again, the benefit of Will having access to all these people in his Willosophy podcast is he's recording episodes with each of them and dropping it out and talking a bit about their Taskmaster experience and those sorts of things. So I commend that to you, friends. It's in the Everyone Relax feed in competition with the very successful TV Binge Box. Fuck off. Don't even think about unsubscribing. Just go and additionally subscribe. It's worth it. Taskmaster Australia this season, Tom Gleeson, Tom Cashman as Taskmaster and Assistant, respectively. Anne Edmonds, Lloyd Langford, Josh Thomas, Jenny Tian, and Will Anderson. It's just bloody funny, and it is good fun, and it is something that everyone can watch. And frankly, it inspires me as a teacher to engage young people in the same way with these kinds of challenges. How can we think laterally? How can we encourage them to do both silly things and creative things and funny things and creative things? Who knows what that's going to do when Molk gets his teacher on. Thursdays, 7:30 on Channel 10. It's available, of course, on 10 Play to catch up. I believe you can even watch the first series. I think, don't hold me to that, but certainly you can catch it this season as it's available on 10 Play and airs Thursday night, 7:30 on 10. Whew! Here we go. Amazing. Now, friends, normally I would be preparing you for the TV Binge Box, but as a very late entrance, and I'm not going to do a full Binge Box review on it, but I just wanted to throw this one at you because I think it's important enough for us to talk about. Last night in the 9:30 p.m. time slot, 9:35 p.m. time slot on the ABC, a new show started. It's called Monday's Experts. As much as anything, because the ABC recognized that they fucked up Q&A and they need to find something to fill that slot. And what can you do? And what could it be? And who do we fill it with? And how do we keep it current? And how do we make it entertaining? Because it comes off a pretty heavy current affairs, public affairs lineup in, well, normally 7:30 Australian Story, Four Corners Media Watch, but stuff the British style started in the Australian Story time slot for the next 6-8 weeks. Congrats, Mark Fennell. Another show on another network. Chalk it up. Good work, buddy. Monday's Experts is hosted by Tony Armstrong and Catherine Murphy. Tony is the gentleman in the blue jacket and Catherine is the lady in the white dress. And I watched the first episode. That's all we've had so far. There were no previews because, as I understand it, it is live to air like Q&A. So I can't even get previews. It's just this is what it is. And they were joined, I believe, as guests. I don't know if these are permanent fixtures or whether there's rotating chairs. Who knows? By Broden Kelly and Lizzie Hu. Broden is the gentleman in the brown shirt, the least hirsute one on the stage. And that makes Lizzie second from the left in the orange and pink dress. It was great. It was really fun. It was I think it was a half hour. Might have been an hour. I think it was a half hour. I can't even remember. That's how good it was. It has good bones. It was engaging. I was skeptical going in because I've been watching Tony Armstrong's Extraordinary Things and I don't like him reading scripts. What I do like is Tony Armstrong live and a bit loose, like he has been on ABC Breakfast and as he is here. And I think that he and Catherine are comfortable already. That's good. I think that will grow and that generosity and experience in live performance will grow. Whether the Broden and Lizzie seats are revolving or whether we're stuck with them. I mean, hell, it would be great to be stuck with them, frankly, because they all four made a good team. They just talked about sport. If you're not into sport, fine, it's not going to be your thing. But the whole point of Monday's Experts is we get to talk in retrospect about the sport and how we knew everything or what was going to happen. That's the basic premise. It's really good. It's got good bones. I want to see it succeed. I want to see it grow. Its first episode pulled, I think, 300,000 viewers nationally, which at 9:30 is not bad on a Monday night. Certainly better than most Q&A episodes. Hopefully it grows. It is up against some big sporting shows on Channel 9 where they have their AFL and NRL, talk shows, and I think Channel 7 also do something. I can't recall. I'm not big necessarily on watching talking heads and certainly not big on talking, like having past players talk at me. Fuck that. But Monday's Experts was really good. And I commend it to you, friends. It may get way worse. It may be, I hope it gets way better. It's great to start with. Don't get me wrong. I just really want to see it grow and improve and see that chemistry with Tony and Catherine particularly develop further. And however they have those revolving chairs, whatever that looks like. More, please, more, please, more, please. Monday's Experts has absolutely landed on my to watch list every week. And we are, I think, the better for it. So, friends, as I said at the top of the show, I'm loving the comments that are coming through, just by the way. There's all sorts of things. Like here's one from Jimmy, who threw in this one. Not many generic sports programs in prime time these days. I hope it grows. He is very true. We're either very specific, the NRL or the AFL or lawn bowls. Nothing that is generic and let's cover all sports. And look, they even had guests, which was bloody great, I thought. Matt Horton showing just how big his hands are. What I want to hear from you, for those that are watching and can comment on Facebook or on YouTube. I'm sorry for those on Instagram. I can't include your comments on screen, but I will include you certainly. I want to know the show that you jumped into hoping it was great or expecting it to be great and it was a disappointment and you didn't like it. You can even share, and let's be generous here, share maybe why you didn't like it. It can be you, and maybe the subject matter. It may be that you thought it was A and it was B. But let's be generous. Let's judge about, oh, shit, because they're so definitive of it. I'm not into that. But I do want to hear, what's the show that you watched that you were really hoping to be great, but you were disappointed with? That would be really good. Meanwhile, I just want to throw in, because there actually have been some comments on Instagram, but they have almost flown past us. Let's have a look here. Do you have any, this is from Pete, again, I think it's Pete Taylor. Molk, do you have any tips on shows we might have overlooked in the previous years? Pete, the answer is yes. I have plenty. I have lists. Perhaps that could be the final episode of the Binge Box this season, where I just go, here is everything you missed and you need to watch from an educative point of view. But I'll start absolutely top line with The Wire and with Breaking Bad. Like, if you have not seen those two shows, they really set a standard for the last 20 years of drama coming out of the States, any part of the English-speaking world. Throw in some Vigil, throw in, Jesus, and heaps of good Aussie drama, The Newsreader, Total Control, Mystery Road Origin. Like, there's, too much. Not for now, but for later. So, want to hear the show that you started to watch but were disappointed about. However, dear friends, it is time for this week's Upmolks and Downmolks, and I will do my best because last week I know I didn't. I talked too long about all of them, and we're close coming to the hour, and I need to censor myself. For our first Upmolk or Downmolk, I want to talk about the cheap seats. Season 4 is airing Tuesday nights. In fact, probably right now as I record this live on Channel 10. And look, Melanie Bracewell, Tim McDonald are the hosts. This started in, 24? Just so it started in 2020, just prior to the pandemic, or really as the pandemic was kicking off. Some people might have known Melanie. She's a Kiwi comedian who's done a whole bunch of stuff and now lives here in Australia, does a whole bunch of stuff here. Very few people may have heard of Tim unless you're a Formula One fan. He has certainly a very popular Formula One podcast. I back these guys from episode 1. Same as Monday's Experts. Good bones, good opportunity, good start. And it has just gone strength to strength. Absolutely no surprise that Cheap Seat Season 4 gets a big thumbs up, a big Upmolk from me. Tuesday nights, 8:30, 5-ish, 9-ish, somewhere there. Definitely do it. It's worth it. Absolutely. And I'm going to say, this might be a bit controversial. A better performer week on week, not by ratings, but by content, a better performer week on week than Have You Been Paying Attention? Both of them working dog products. Oh, I said it. Second one in the list for Upmolks and Downmolks is Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Season 1. This aired earlier this year on Prime Video, and it's been announced that Season 2 will return, but these two, our central characters, Donald Glover and Maya Erskine, will not be returning as the Mr. and Mrs. Smith roles, but other characters, the people that play other characters around them will be. So leaning into what the premise of the show is, they're spies that are thrust together. It's not completely the same as the movie, which is what I think I liked about it. It takes a different approach. It's very good. I think you can see Donald Glover's hands all across it as part of the creative. And I think, look, I, again, absolutely commend it. It's a big Upmolk from me. Mr. and Mrs. Smith was super fun. It ended in a way that was satisfying and unsurprising, and yet very surprising and not surprising that they're not returning, and allows the story to develop and generate into Season 2. So Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Prime Video. Cool. This one, starring Richard Roxburgh and Rebecca Gibney. We had to have our Rebecca Gibney quotient filled for 2024, and that happens in Prosper, another Stan drama. So we picked up a couple this week. It is about a husband and wife, leaders of a mega church in Sydney, where the husband particularly falls from grace. I couldn't imagine what they're talking about. Hillsong. It's not, but look, the church that is U-Star is it hits all of the evangelical notes and the right kind of Pentecostalistic and those kinds of things. As someone who is a person of faith and has dabbled and has a bunch of friends connected to evangelical and Pentecostal churches, and certainly some that have gone to a church that looks like U-Star here in Sydney, it is mostly rock solid close, but there are elements where it's like, I think you're just playing into some stereotypes and you actually could have leaned in a little better. Nonetheless, I commend Prosper to you. It's a big Upmolk from me. That's on Stan, which only adds to the reason you should have Stan in your at least a la carte rotation, if not monthly subscription situation. I grew up watching this man, Steve Martin, perform, and I fell in love with him as a teenager, watching him in the Three Amigos, and then went on to discover he had a stand-up history and a whole bunch of films before the Three Amigos. I benefited from that. And the documentary, Steve Martin, Then and Now, a documentary in 2 parts. And I say Steve because it's in all caps with an exclamation point, lowercase Martin. It's on Apple TV Plus. Fuck me, it's great. Particularly the first part, the Then, where it just looks at his rise as America's biggest comic. He was packing out stadiums before that even was a thing. And then the Now, what happened after that? Well, he gave up on stand-up in that arena setting because it was unsatisfying and he wasn't connecting with the audience like he wanted to. He became a writer. He became a collector, an art collector. He became a brilliant screenwriter and an amazing comedian performer. And I was delighted to have confirmed what I understood was to be true. He and Martin Short met on the Three Amigos, and that is where their friendships formed and solidified. And if you have not seen The Three Amigos, transformative comedy movie from the 80s, you may think, Molk, what is this rubbish? Fuck you. It is glorious, glorious cinema. And I commend to you this 2-part documentary, Steve Martin, Then and Now, a documentary in 2 parts. It's on Apple TV Plus. The hugest up Molk possible. I don't know what I could say to you. Our final one tonight is everyone's favorite animated documentary series, Bluey. And some controversy, and I stand by my comments that I made at the time, but let's lean into this. We were promised this year the first ever mega Bluey episode, a 30-minute episode, and boy, did we get it. It's called The Sign. And you may go, Molk, it's a kids animated show. Yeah, it is. And Jeepers Creepers, they hit the adult notes super hard. I honestly, I can't get through a 10-minute episode, a normal episode, without weeping. And I think I cried 4 times in The Sign. Megan Washington's song, she plays one of the characters, but she also did a song or re-recorded a song for the episode, and it's delightful. And the basic premise is Bandit, the dad, who's sitting on the right there at this wonderful little, picnic in their house, gets a job. They have to sell a house. They have to move. It's the only house that Bluey and Bingo, her sister, have known. And Chili's upset because, of course, they raised their kids there. And, for someone who just uprooted his entire family 4 years ago and moved his 2 teenagers out of the only house they've ever known, oh, my God, it killed me. And it's delightful and it's lovely and we get the right kind of ending. And look, subsequently, the biggest ever up Molk that I could possibly give. Bluey is a kids show that is made for adults, and it is incredible television. And you would be well encouraged to go and watch every episode of Bluey ever, but particularly go to ABC iView and watch The Sign. It's available right now, and it's a wonderful little half hour. And you don't even really have to know any of the backstory, other than Bluey is the little blue heeler pup, and her sister Bingo is the little red heeler pup, and they come from parents, Bandit and Chili. Bandit is a blue heeler, Chili is the red heeler, and they love their kids so very much. And I'm going to weep if I keep talking about it like this now. So go and watch Bluey, a huge up Molk. Hooray. Congratulations. Friends, we made it, but we're ticking on that 60 minutes. So I need to push through some of the shows that people found that they were hoping were going to be great and were disappointing. Let's just throw these up on the overlay and I'll talk about them as we go. But there have been some good ones. Heartbreak High Season 2, Leo says, was a tough watch and it just wasn't good, I'm afraid. And I entirely agree with you. In a much harsher way, Leo, it was shit. And I'm glad that Season 3 will be the last, because otherwise we'll get caught in a Beverly Hills 90210 situation where we've got 30-year-olds playing 19-year-olds. It makes no sense. How are they at school? Idiots. Yeah, Season 1 was good. Season 2 is not great at all. Clint says, I was eager for The Good Fight, the spin-off from The Good Wife. I knew the main character was not going to be part of the series, but it became too political and not enough law cases, in my opinion. I'm not sure if I should watch Elspeth, another spin-off based on one of The Good Wife's lawyers, because of this. Oh, look, I disagree with you. I thought that The Good Fight was really good, but yes, it did get very political. It was right in the middle of Trump, and this was the creators responding to and talking about Trump in some of that stuff as much as anything else. The law stuff was good when they did get to it as well, but it was really about the politics of the business. That was what The Good Fight was about. I encourage you to watch Elspeth. It's absolutely worth it. Absolutely worth it. Joseph said that he watched The Tattooist of Auschwitz. Thumbs up. In the middle, slightly uppish clipped. Great. Thanks, Joseph. And Jimmy says that Steve Martin has not aged since The Three Amigos. That is correct. Christina offers that Yellow Jackets Season 2 was a huge disappointment. It lost so much of the darkness and feeling of dread that Season 1 had. And I think I agree, Christina, because the problem was they gave us the right amount of stuff in Season 1 to keep us connected. But what that meant was that we knew all of the secrets, really. And so Season 2, they had to make up new secrets. That's not helpful, is it? So, friends, there's heaps more flying around. There's heaps going on. I'm so glad that you joined me for the TV the TV Binge Box podcast. Wow. That's been a night. It's all been going on. All of the socials are available on Linktree, linktr.ee/Steve Molk. For all of this, of course, this is going to be produced as a podcast. You can listen to it. You can watch it on TV Black Box's YouTube and Facebook, and of course on our website itself. Thank you for being a part of the craziness that is all of this. I really appreciate you joining me for another TV Binge Box. Peace out, friends.